Welcome in, I'm Artress, and in this video we're going to be going over Shanks, a new leader from OP09 in the color red. Yes, red is back. But before we go over what Shanks does and the deck list overall, I do want to give you guys a reminder that we are celebrating hitting 5,000 subscribers on this channel. Thank you guys so much for helping me get there. In order to help celebrate, I'm giving away these 3 Dawn to one lucky winner. Now, normally you get these Dawn through Treasure Cup participation or regional participation, but in order to get these through the giveaway, all you have to do is be subbed to the channel, leave a comment on a video between now and December 22nd, and also make sure you react to the post within the Discord in the announcements channel. The link for that is in the description below. This will be your last chance to do this because this is the last video to come out before December 22nd ends. So make sure you participate if you're interested in getting a chance at winning these 3 Dawn. Once again, thank you guys so much for helping me get to 5,000 subscribers. On to Shanks. This is a leader that I am super excited about. It's one that I've been personally testing ever since I found out that this leader was coming out. For a while now, I felt, I wouldn't say burned out is the right word, but because there's just been such an over-tuning of black in that archetype, whether it's like Lucci or Black Yellow Luffy, and even Gecko Moria for a little while was pretty strong. I felt like either you play black or you lose. But in OP09, I feel like with such a fresh addition to the meta, a lot of colors have been either reinvigorated or have been buffed up in a way that makes them playable. And I definitely think Shanks is one of these leaders that is a great deck within the format. He has a static ability, or not static ability, but he has a generic ability that says once per turn, you may activate this effect when your opponent attacks. Give up to one of your opponent's leader or characters minus 1,000 power for this turn. So this will generate value over time because basically this leader says you get a free 1k counter every turn on defense. That is huge. I know that when people first saw this effect, they were like, this is awful. Why would you want to play this? But trust me, this leader is good. The deck is good. It's very fun. It is linear. There are different ways to build it, but overall the game plan kind of stays the same. So let's get into the deck list and see what we have here. First off, we are running 4 Otama. I feel like this is a 2k counter that will probably be in red decks until the end of time. It's just a really good staple. The fact that you can play this down for 1 and then give a character minus 2,000 power, able to trade into bigger bodies with some of the things that you have on the field, it makes it harder for your opponent to counter out and protect some of these units that they might have rested on their side. I'm running 2 Sanji that is a 2k counter. Now, before we go any further, I do want to clarify that this deck list has been based off of the Red Hawk deck list that we've seen popularized in the East. I've taken that deck list and kind of modified it in a way that made it feel better for me to play. It's very similar. There's a lot of the same cards, but I've definitely reduced some of the numbers of some stuff, bumped up other things, and then switched some other things out. Sanji's one of these that was at 4 in that deck list, and it's a good card, don't get me wrong. It's great in certain matchups, but I don't always want to see it. It's really good in the Blackbeard matchup, and it's really good into Nami matchup, but outside of that, I'm not necessarily wanting to play this down. The activate main once per turn ability says you may add 1 card from your life area to your hand, and then this character gains 2,000 power during this turn, then give this character up to 2 rested Dawn cards. So anytime that you play anything down with this on the field, then you use that ability and this becomes a 7k attacker, and your opponent will likely attack into it the following turn, so it acts as like a pseudo blocker. However, I don't want to be taking my life constantly. There are some good ways to use this, especially with the new Gold D Roger. If you want to get down to 0 or guarantee you get down to 0, the Sanji can help you do that, but also your opponent attacking you can help you do that as well. So we're running it at 2 instead of 4. Another addition that I really like into this deck is the 5-cost Marco. This is a 5-cost 6,000 power body from OP03 that says your turn on play, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less, and then on KO, you may trash 1 event card from your hand, play this character from the trash as rested. We're running about 6 event cards, so there are some times that this second effect on KO is very handy and comes in clutch. Other times, you're probably just going to be using it as a way to get rid of small characters on the field. It's great into Blackbeard, being able to get rid of their Lafettes without having to attack into them, barring that they haven't used their on play or their leader ability rather. And this also helps get rid of, against Doflamingo, it helps you get rid of like their Teaches, and then any of like the small searchers that they might want to bounce back to their hand. So Marco has great utility, and it's got a great stat line. And one thing that I've noticed in this deck is that it's very difficult to have a good play on 5 or 6 Dawn, and so that's why I pumped up the Marco to 4 of. I wish I could run it at 5 of, but Marco is really good here in the deck, I believe. And then next I'm running 2 10-cost KO Shanks. This is one that I I think I'm just being stubborn. I really just want to include this in the deck. I think it's a great win condition against yellow and great win condition against green. Both of those matchups can be tough. This deck overall has like 50-50 matchups across the board, and I think this Shanks helps lean those a little bit more into like the 60-40. It's great into Enel because all of Enel's top end will be able to be hit by this Shanks because it KOs a character with 10,000 power or less. And then it also hits pretty much everything within Bonney, except for the 9-cost Shanks, which is 11,000 power, but that's okay because it gets rid of like a Zoro, because some Bonnies have been running that. It gets rid of Kid if Kid doesn't have like a Rosinante blocker protecting it. So Shanks I really like it. It's a great top-end piece, and I'm going to try to keep it at 2 no matter what style of deck I'm playing with Shanks. Then I'm running 4 Dragon. This is a 8-cost 9,000 power body with says Rush, and it has on play, give your leader aura up to one of your characters 2 Rested Dawn. There's a lot of contention in the community as far as like, is this good? Should you include this in the deck? I personally really like it because this gives you an edge against Blackbeard, especially if you're going second. You can drop the dragon down on 8. Of course, the on-play ability most likely won't be useful because your on-plays will be turned off by Blackbeard's leader. However, it does still have Rush, and the fact that you can go 5 and then swing 9 puts a lot of pressure on Blackbeard. It's really good into trading into other characters as well, if you're not going against Blackbeard, for instance. So I like to keep it at 4, but of course it is very clunky. A lot of these cards in the deck have no counter, but I think I'm just going to keep it at 4 no matter what. I also have the alt art, so I think that's also why I'm being greedy and including it at 4. You can probably bump it down to 3, maybe even 2, depending on your play style or style of this deck. Next, I'm running 4 Rayleigh. This is an 8,000 power body for 8. On play, choose up to 2 of your opponent's characters until the end of your opponent's next turn. Give one character minus 3,000 power and then the other minus 2,000 power. After this, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a power of 3,000 or less. This is great because you can trade into bodies very easily with this. You can get rid of bodies very easily as well. With an Otama and a Rayleigh, you can get rid of an 8,000 power body and then minus 2,000 to another body. And the other thing here is that this effect lasts for an entire turn after that. So on your opponent's turn, whatever you minused still is minused until your next turn starts, which is great because it's a great defensive capability here. And then also on top of that, you can KO stuff that you might want to get rid of on the field. Super useful. I personally think you shouldn't run any less than 4 in Shanks. I think this card is one of your best cards to actually pull, and it's one of the MVPs going against Doflamingo, because God knows that matchup is awful for Shanks, or it can be if Doflamingo gets the ball rolling pretty easily. Rayleigh helps make sure that that matchup is at least a little bit easier to handle. So this is a card that you're going to want to mulligan for. It's not searchable, unfortunately, but if you can find it in your opening hand, keep it. Hopefully you can draw into it. Then I'm running 2 Uta. I know that this is probably a weird number to run in the deck, but I think this deck has problems with consistency. What you draw is what you get, basically. There's no way to draw any further. There's no way to really search. And a lot of the stuff that you have in your deck are red hair pirates, and so you do want to be able to search out some red hair pirate stuff. You either have some mid-game level bodies like your Lucky Roo, you have 2K counters you can search out Ben Beckman, but most importantly, you can search out your top end, which are your 10-cost Shanks of all sorts and sizes. I think that you probably should run either 0 of this or 4 Uta. The problem is deck space is a little bit tight, I would say, right now, and so I'm including it at 2 right now because I want to see how it plays. Ultimately, I don't think I'll land at 2. I might increase it to 4. I might decrease it to 0. Who knows? We'll see as the meta progresses and kind of see where I land on. But right now, we're kind of testing it out at 2. Then probably the best card in the deck, and the card that came from OP09 as well, that makes this deck extremely strong, is the 10-cost 12,000 power Shanks. It says all of your opponent's characters have minus 1,000 power. That's a blanket effect. It's not on your opponent's turn. It's not on your turn only. It's on all turns. So it makes battle math a little bit more awkward for your opponent. It kind of taxes a lot of your opponent's moves from there on after, which is really good. So they might not play things as efficiently, and then synergizes really well with your leader ability. And the fact it has Rush is, on top of that, just like a beautiful chef's kiss thing to see there. We're running 4 of because if you can get at least 2 on the field, you're probably in a really good spot to win the game from there on out. I've noticed that in OP10, they've run it down to 3 instead of 4. We'll get there when we get to OP10. I'm kind of surprised to see that in the East, but I think that this card is just insane at what it does. And so for me, running it at less than 4 doesn't really make sense. And honestly, this art is pretty sick as well. So why wouldn't you want to run it at 4? That's a question I will leave to you. Then next, we were running 2 Silver's Rayleigh. This is a blocker from OP09 that says, on play, if your opponent has 2 or more characters with an original power of 5,000 or more, draw 2 cards and discard 1 card from your hand. So that's very important because if you do play a 10-cost Shanks down and say you're going against Doflamingo and their characters are now reduced down to 4,000 power, the Rayleigh recognizes the original power of them, and so you can still get the effect off because of that. You might want to bump this up a little bit, but I did find this awkward at times because it's like I might not have a play on 5, and the only play I have on 5 is to play this Rayleigh, and you don't get the effect more than often than not if you're playing it on 5, because if your opponent has established 2 5,000 power bodies before 5, then yeah, you're going to be in trouble. I think the only deck that really does that might be like Uta, also Doflamingo, obviously, but yeah, Rayleigh is very good to play towards the end game, but before that, I wouldn't really recommend it unless you have no other play to make. Next up, we have Ben Beckman. This is a 7th cost, 7,000 power body with a 1k counter on it, very important there. It says, on play, trash up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a power of 6,000 or less. Doesn't have to be original power, just power at the moment. You've noticed a lot of these things have to do with power reduction and like KOing or trashing things at certain power levels. And honestly, one of the other things that I want to consider when I'm going into building this deck as I'm like progressing with it is probably adding Building Snakes in, because Building Snake synergizes really well with Rayleigh and synergizes really well with Beckman. You can search it with Uta, but we haven't included it. We're just kind of going off of pure power alone, and sometimes Otama helps get you there if you need to get a bigger body off the field. So Ben Beckman, just being able to trash a 6,000 power, and trash is important. That's a good keyword because it gets rid of Sabo, because Sabo says can't be KO'd. Well, trash is different. So Ben Beckman is a great addition to the deck, a great addition from OP09, and I think a lot of red decks are going to be adding this into their deck list as just a generic good removal piece in general. And then next, another piece you can combo with Ben Beckman besides Otama is Hongo. It is a 2k counter that says activate main, you may rest this character. So it's kind of like Tashigi from Black, but for red instead. And it says you may rest this character if your leader has the red hair pirates type. Give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power during this turn. So it rests itself, it's repeatable. Your opponent will really want to get rid of this, especially if you've tapped it sideways, because it helps trade into bodies very easily. Hongo is a great addition to this deck. Next up, we have Lime Juice, a 2k counter from OP09 that says, on play, up to one of your opponent's characters with power 4,000 or less cannot activate blocker for the rest of this turn. This is a great way to push for lethal, especially against Black, because they have maybe like a Rebecca blocker out, and you can just play the Lime Juice down, and now Rebecca can't block at all. So this is a great addition as well. I might want to include this at more of, maybe like 3 or 4, but I was making cuts to the deck to see what else I could fit in, and so Lime Juice is one of those that I made a cut to. Overall, I think I'm running like 12 2Ks, so I cut some 2Ks down because I think the original Red Hawk list was running like 16 2Ks or something like that. And I felt like that might be a little bit too much because there's times where you just kind of have like nothing but 2Ks, and you can't really do much with that. So I cut the 2Ks down, and one of those was Lime Juice. Is that the right cut? I don't know, but it felt wrong cutting Hongo and Otama. And I think that Lime Juice helps you get kind of like a win condition in, but also we have another win condition in the deck besides Lime Juice, which we'll get to very shortly. Next, we have 2 Lucky Roo, another new addition from OP09. A lot of the Red Hair Pirate support comes from OP09, so that's why we have a lot of new stuff here. This is a 4-cost 5,000 power blocker that says on KO, if your leader has the Red Hair Pirates type, KO up to one of your opponent's characters the original power of 6,000 or less. This is great to play going second on curve, and you can basically allow whatever they played that turn is probably going to be KO'd because of this Lucky Roo. The only downside to this card is that it is very easily returned to the hand against Doflamingo because they have like bounce law. And so this is not a great card to put into the Doflamingo matchup, which is why I'm only running it at 2, but it can be searched out by the Uta. And in other matchups, it's really strong. You want to see this in your purple matchup because it can answer a body that was played down, and so that alleviates some pressure coming your way. But Lucky Roo is one of those that I might want to cut out, but once again, I'm testing some stuff, and I think Lucky Roo could have a spot at the end of the day. Now, the other win condition I was talking about is the 10-cost Gold D Roger. Yet again, a new card from OP09 that says Rush. And by the way, this is the gold manga version of it, so very fancy here, but this is not normally what it looks like unless, of course, you're crazy and you want to include like a 5,000, it might be even more than that, I'm not sure, a $5,000 card in your deck, 2 of them to say the least there. It is a rush unit that says when your opponent activates blocker, if you or your opponent have 0 life, you win the game. It is a 10 cost, 13,000 power body. That is the highest power body we've seen so far, and that's very fitting for the Pirate King himself. But thing here is that it has a win condition stapled on it, and it doesn't have to be if they block this character, it's just if they use block at all, if you are at 0 or if they are at 0. So it makes things very awkward for them, especially when they're down to 1. And do they want to take that 1 life and then potentially risk the Roger coming out? That is something that a lot of people have to figure out now or think about actively when they're going against red. So Gold D Roger for me, I want to include it at 2. A lot of people are including it at 1, but this card, there's so many times where I'm like, if I have a Gold D Roger in hand right now, I just win. And so because of that, I've included 2. Most people will run 1 though. Then we're running 2 Ace. It is the Ace from the starter at 15. That's a 5 cost 6,000 power body, 1k counter. It says if your leader is Whitebeard Pirates type, this character gains Rush. So it doesn't have the Rush on it, but the other thing that's important here is it says once per turn, if this character would be removed from play by one of your opponent's effects, instead you may give this character minus 2,000 power for this turn. So it's any kind of removal, whether it's like bottom decking or trashing or KOing. It's very sticky and it stays on the field for most of the time that it's on the field. Your opponent will have to remove it twice, either through like 1 removal piece and then another, or removal piece and then swing into it. So I like this card a lot, but it's really good into black, and I'm not sure how present like Lucci will be, for instance, in this new meta. So I'm including it at 2 right now, but this is one of those things where as the meta evolves, this deck list will evolve as well. And if there's more Lucci being played, this will be bumped up more. If there's less Lucci, I might just remove it altogether. It can be removed pretty easily against like Blackbeard, because Blackbeard has Liberation, which basically just removes the text from the card. And then if it's a 4 cost or less, it can KO. So they have ways to negate the effect and then also reduce the cost of it. So that's the only time that it might not be great to play against, but any other matchup, it's just like really a solid card. And then for our events, we're running 4 Red Hawk, which I gotta be honest, Red Hawk is a good card overall. I think the effect of being able to pay 2 and then give your character or leader 4,000 power and then KO an opponent's character with a 4,000 power or less is powerful. And the fact that it has a trigger that's basically like beige in red. It says your opponent's leader or one of their characters gets minus 10,000 power during the turn. That's huge. It will save a game more often than not if that's coming out of life, which is another reason to run it at 4. But the other thing here is that there's very awkward times to play it. You're either playing it like turn 1 or you're playing it towards the end of the game. And otherwise it's just kind of sitting in hand, which it can be fodder for Marco, but it is a little bit of an awkward card that you kind of have to learn how to play around. There's some cheeky moves you can play with going against like Doflamingo, for instance, if they're using their leader ability to begin with and they bring out like a Jinbei or like any kind of 5,000 power body. You can use your leader ability, minus it down to 4, and then Red Hawk to KO it and then protect yourself in the same turn. Very powerful, but I think a lot of people have figured this out, at least because it came out into the meta, I would say, towards the end of OP09 in the East, and so a lot of people in the West caught on to this, and then as people caught onto it, I think people are playing smarter around it. They're putting Dawn underneath things instead, which that's also very good because it taxes your opponent. So I say Red Hawk is ultimately good, but some people like to include it, some people don't. And then finally, I'm running 2 zero-cost events. With how many bricks I'm running, I probably should be running more zero-cost events in this deck. Being able to trash a card from hand that has no counter and then basically gaining 3,000, so a 2 and a 1, is very strong. The trigger is also a like mini Red Hawk, giving minus 3,000 power to an opponent's character or leader. Pretty strong, but also in the same vein, you might just want to add this to your hand instead. But running 2 of these, I might want to bump it up to 4 and then maybe bump the Red Hawk down to 2 if I'm trying some stuff out. But ultimately, this is the deck list we have right now. I think it's overall pretty strong. We'll take it into the sim though, see how it does. I think that we'll have a fair fight against a lot of decks, and maybe we'll change some things up at the end of it. So like I said, let's take it in the sim and ultimately see how it does. Blackbeard is a matchup you're going to have to get used to, especially if you're playing Shanks. And honestly, this hand is not awful, but it could be better. I wish this 10 cost KO Shanks would be a rush Shanks instead, but I can't complain having a dragon and also the ace in hand, so we'll keep it, of course. They have a .Q off of their Hachinoso, or Hachinosu, and so they'll probably play it down. Let's just try to counter out as much as possible. I want to have a healthy life total by the time we get to 10 Dawn, because by the time they get to 10 Dawn is where they start really applying a lot of pressure here. So let's swing 7. They're likely going to take this, and then we'll threaten a Red Hawk. Now, I don't mind KOing the Doc Q with the Red Hawk if they draw a card. Doc Q can be a little bit of an annoyance against like maybe the ace, especially if they are able to, like with a Van Augur, and then maybe have a Laboon eventually, and then like use Laboon, Doc Q, and then Liberation or Finger Gun. They have so many ways to get rid of a body. But they don't swing because I'm going to be using my leader ability naturally against them. I would have not used it. I would have used the Red Hawk instead, but they didn't give us a chance. So playing it pretty smart overall. We'll swing 6, put down the ace, and then here is the Van Augur. I'm assuming Liberation. Yeah, Liberation will just remove the effect of ace, so it can be KO'd, and then it KOs a 4 cost or less. With the Van Augur, it is a 2 cost. And once again, I'm just going to counter out, even if I'm using my leader ability and pitching a 2K, which is like not really countering out efficiently. We need to make sure that we are at a healthy life total once again. Let's just swing 5 into 5 and see if they give us a counter. They might, or not. They take a life, and then we'll go 9 into 5, and they'll probably block here. They don't want to go down too low, of course. And swinging into the Van Augur gives them a card, and it's a little bit awkward for me, like 9 into 6. Giving 2 2Ks is not ideal for Blackbeard, but they might if that's the case, and they'll probably just block anyway. So it's the same thing if you go at their face. This turn, they play Tempest Kick to draw a card. Nice to be able to cycle there. And if they drop another Burgess, we could be in a lot of trouble. This would be the perfect curve for Teach, of course. Going like Doc Q into Van Augur into a small blocker into 2 Burgesses. And if they have 10 cost Blackbeard after this, then, well, we really need to see 10 cost Shanks, the Rush Shanks, because that will help make sure that this game is a lot easier. We don't have a 2K, or rather, I would want to see if we have the 10 cost Shanks come down out of life, which we don't. I just took that hit because I wanted to see what we could get, and I'm comfortable going off down to 4. And there he is. Like the hero he is, we have Shanks, the Rush unit, coming in off the top right when we need him. We'll go 5 at face, counters out. Take the 9, and then he's going to have to take the 12, and this puts a lot of pressure on him because now we are threatening lethal here where if we have a Gold D Roger, it's game over, right? If they, play down the 10 cost and then they use their leader ability, so they play down the 10 cost, they're down to 4 cards in hand, and if they use their leader ability, then they'll be down to 3 cards in hand, and we can just evenly split up between Dragon and Shanks and go 11-11, and there's no way they can counter out of that. So they pitch a Doc Q for another Teach. That's kind of greedy on their part, I suppose. Because now we know that we can definitely guarantee it with only an 11-11 this next turn. So, and they can't kill our Dragon because their Burgesses don't reach quite that high. And honestly, I'm just going to take all these hits. I'm just going to spam click through and just take it all and hope to find a Gold D Roger. We'll spam it. Oh, I guess I could have used the Red Hawk there, but it didn't really matter. I just, like I said, want to see all that I can because I want to win with style. I want to get the Gold D Roger down, but it looks like we're not going to be able to get it. 2 Red Hawks off of life would have been sick if that was the case, like if they were going for game or something, but yeah, we'll just split it up. Now that they pitched a 1K, oh my gosh, we know exactly what's in their hand. We can just swing 9 because one of those is a 10 cost counterless card, so we'll swing 9 and then the rest on the leader. And I think they know. There's no way they don't. This game is over here, so yeah. You just have to play very aggressive if you can, and then obviously Dragon on curve into the Rush Shanks will help make this matchup so much easier. Purple Luffy is going to be one of our harder matchups in the meta. It is really tough because they do spit out a lot of bodies and they can pressure with high power bodies. I don't like the hand that I had. It's not really that great, and it's good for late, but not really anything else. This hand is really awkward as well, but we do have at least the Lucky Roo to be able to help us. So they play the Zorojuro down. I would imagine their curve was like Zorojuro into Luffy Taro into Sangoro, and then whatever else they want to after that. So they have the Zorojuro. Will they have the Luffy Taro next turn? We'll swing 5 to counter out. We'll play down the Lucky Roo, and then this is good because now what we can do is use the Lucky Roo to KO one of their units if they decide to swing. And like I said, Luffy Taro into Sangoro. Are we witnessing the perfect purple curve here? It appears that we might be. And they don't swing because they don't want the Lucky Roo to KO one of their units. Very smart by them. They use their leader ability to go to 1, but they heal back up with the Linlin, putting the Lucky Roo to life so that I can't KO a unit. They're playing very well. And this is the perfect purple curve, folks. It's rough when this happens to you, but what can you do here? They are at 2 life, so let's just pressure life because they are pretty low. Pressuring body is not going to be possible really for us with just our leader swing. So we'll bait out a counter there, and then we'll go 8 into 6, see what else we can get out of hand. Give me a 2 and a 1, and then we'll swing into what gives them the card draw. Ultimately, I think it's best here. Oh my gosh. I think we're cooked. I think we're cooked here. They 4 cost into 7, into the 9, into the 10. Yeah, this is what it looks like if they see exactly what they need. And honestly, we're kind of like helpless here. There's not much we can really do. They swing pretty hard. I probably should have not countered out with 2Ks there. Maybe save them because the guaranteed 8 was going to hit anyway. And we let the 6 hit. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't have done that, but I think it is what it is. We did what we did. 7 into face. They have the Gum Giant, which they were threatening. That's fine. We'll now put the rest on Dragon and then swing into the Lin to just try to guarantee it. 13 to 9 is very clean. This turn, I was going to say, if they have the Usohachi or a Sanji, that would suck. They have it. Why wouldn't they have had everything else they've needed up to this point? So they rest my blocker. They'll go 9 into 5. We have to counter out of this one at least. So we'll use our leader ability on this and then probably use a 0-cost event into a 1K. And then they can split it up evenly between their characters after here. 7. So 7, they might go 7, 9, 11. We counter out of that. And then they go 10. Well, I can't counter out of this one. And honestly, I can't counter out of this next one either. We're going to be at 10 exactly. This is really hard for us to deal with. It happens sometimes. Into purple, green, Doflamingo. I am not really sure. Like, I haven't played against this recently, at least. And I'm assuming we're seeing it right now because of the Kai video that recently came out where he was showing somebody's deck list. A guy that's like a really top player in Japan. They're playing Doflamingo as like a side, like a pet deck rather. And it looks really fun. And so I imagine this is the reason why we see it here. They play Baby 5, grab the 10 cost. Yeah, the OP0431. Don't ask me how I know that. I just have them memorized, I guess, at this point. That's the 10 cost. They'll swing 7. We'll use our leader ability to be cheeky, and then we'll use Red Hawk to be able to get rid of this Baby 5. And we'll play out the Uta next turn to see what we can get off the Uta. Hopefully a 10 cost. That'd be nice. But let's swing first before we play anything else. I am only swinging 5 because I don't really, to be honest, like 5 or 6. They gave us 2K anyway, so I guess it didn't really matter at the end of the day. Maybe that wasn't the most Dawn-efficient turn, but it's how I wanted to play it anyway. So we'll swing 6 into 5, and they play their Birdcage down, which just makes sure that all of our 5 or lower cost characters, if they are rested, they stay rested until Birdcage leaves the field, which Birdcage leaves the field at 10 Dawn and then KOs everything that is 5 or less. That is rested, by the way. And so this could be a good Hody Jones turn to rest both of our units and guarantee that, yeah, there they have it. Now this makes sure that our Uta and our Marco stay rested. We'll use our leader ability for free on the leader, and then Hody Jones coming in for 8. We'll take that. And then I think this turn we could probably swing 5 at face just to bait out a counter. And then what we can do is put all of our Dawn onto the Rush Dragon and then swing into the Hody Jones. And this might get us a counter event. Likely a counter event because it's perfect for them. They had it. I figured they might, but it's always worth trying anyway. And I would rather not swing into face too hard. An easy 5K swing into face allows them to counter out so that it makes it easier to trade into a body. So keep that in mind when you are playing a game, that if you want to trade into a body, sometimes it's nice to just swing with no Dawn into a leader or whatever it may be and see if they give you a card. And if they don't, then you can pressure their face harder. And if they do give you a card, then you can pressure the body even harder that you'd like. This turn is, wow, we are seeing so many perfect curves with purple in this video. We saw purple Luffy do very well against us, and now they are seeing exactly what they need. They saw Birdcage on curve. They saw Hody Jones into 9-cost Lin, but the downside here for them is that they don't have nearly as many cards in hand as purple Luffy would. So I feel pretty comfortable here, knowing that the 10 cost is the next play that they have. I don't mind just swinging in and clearing as many things as possible. So we'll swing 10 into the Hody Jones because they might have another restand, so I want to guarantee that it's down. So we'll go 5 and then 9 and then get them down to 2 life here. This will be a leader swing for 5, so we'll use our leader ability on theirs. And then they will go 8 into assumably life, and we'll probably just take that one, go down to 2. I don't mind going down to 2, to be honest, with this leader, because I do have a lot of 2Ks in the deck. And so Birdcage being procced means that we can bring our Marco back with pitching a Bad Manners Kick Horse. I bet they didn't think of that. And so we'll swing 6 into 5 just to get a counter out of hand, doing what I just said, and then putting all of our Dawn onto this dragon and swinging into the Lin and hopefully guaranteeing its KO. which it's gone. So that's nice. Nice to see that. We do have a pretty big board here, but they could follow up with like another 10 cost, which looks like they might. And if that's the case, I don't want to go down to 1. I'm going to use a 1k counter here off their leader swing, and then I'm going to use my leader ability on the 10 drop and then give them 2 2Ks so that we stay at 2 for just another turn here in case they drop another 10 cost, which who would have guessed it, right? This turn, we might play our Rayleigh and then just swing into face with the Marco. Yeah, it's kind of hard what we might want to do here. I don't feel like playing Lucky Roo would be a good idea. We could also just put all of our Dawn on a Marco. I'm counting right now to see if it makes sense to do that, just to clear the 10 drop. They're at 9 right now. So we could get them down to like 6 and then 7. We're not going to be able to KO anything, but we could go 8 into 6. And that if they have a 2 cost event, which we're testing them, they didn't. We got pretty lucky there, but sometimes they have it, sometimes they don't. And then having this Doflamingo be down to a 7 cost, or not 7 cost, 7,000 power is pretty easy for us to counter out of. We can just leader ability 2k. Also, we can make sure that we defend this next swing coming in from the leader. Cody Jones is not going to do it. Cody Jones is going to take your own life, and then I think that's all she wrote at that point, because there's no way with 3 cards in hand and the board that I have here that they can possibly survive. And I think that they realize that. They might just be putting all of the... Yeah, they're one last hurrah to get me down to 0. And that's game. The 10 cost KO Shanks came a little bit too late. I would have liked to have that a turn or 2 ago, but we managed without it. All right, Bonney is going to be a difficult one for us. We are going second, which is very nice, though. Going second in this matchup, whether it's Bonney or Shanks, whoever takes second usually has the advantage. But we do have to keep in mind that if we're going second, that we do have a problem of possibly having their 9 cost Shanks come down and KO like our rested 10 cost. So let's swing 7 into 1 because, you know, show them who's boss. And then we're threatening a Red Hawk. Not that it really matters, but I usually like to just keep 2 up just to make them think that I have it. We'll use our leader ability in 2k. That's why they played the Rouge after. And then drawing into this 10 cost KO Shanks is beautiful. That's exactly what we want here. We'll throw down a Marco just to have the Marco be a body on the field. Nothing for it to KO, unfortunately, but it's fine. At least we have a body that's 6k swinging naturally. Man, it'd be nice to have that Bonney on the field a turn earlier, so I could have KO'd it with my Marco, got some value off of that, but it doesn't look like that's the case here. Once again, we're going to have to use our leader ability in 2k, and now we are full of bricks. We are full of bricks, baby. We're going to use our Rayleigh, drawn it right on time. We're going to get rid of the Cavendish, because Cavendish, if Cavendish stays, it's a problem for us. So we'll get rid of the Cavendish, swing 6 into the 1, get rid of this Bonney here, and then pass the turn after that. The Rouge being at 3 is good for us because it's not threatening, of course. Playing a Carrot is pretty good to be able to suspend my Marco, but I think the better play if they had it would have been to go and play Hawkins. Hawkins is really difficult for me to deal with. Now this turn, I can play the 10 cost Shanks, and I think I will. So let's swing 8 into Bonney, and then swing 12 into Bonney again. And I am okay if they KO this one, only because I have a backup one. If I didn't have a backup one, I might not want to do that. Now, how are we going to be able to get rid of this kid here? This is going to be really difficult because they have 2 Rosinante blockers and a Rouge. So we are not looking too good here. We're going down to 2 life, which honestly is not a comfortable spot for me to be in as Shanks against Bonney. But we'll swing our first 10 cost, and then we'll swing our second 10 cost, and then they'll probably block this one as well. If I were them, I don't think I would use the second Rosinante to block, unless they're really just needing the extra Dawn here. Maybe they have like a 10 cost. Okay, I was going to say, if they have a 10 cost, that'd be really good for them, because then they could rest my stuff and then have the 1 open. That's not the case. We will use our leader ability on the Carrot, rather. And then I think we should just counter out of this one and be careful as far as where they might target their kid. I don't want to go down too low. I'm going to be honest here. It's really scary. I don't want to go down to 1 because going down to 1 with a Hoodie Jones, as they usually play, is going to be very difficult. My Lord, this is insane. I'm going to play the Shanks down and just get rid of it while I can. And at this point, I just clear the board the best I can as well. And then swing 5, and then swing 8. Man, they have seen so many blockers. It's really difficult to break through a lot of this. Of course, they're going to take life and see what they can get. But their best play here is, I don't even know, like maybe playing the 10 cost. I think we've been able to hopefully alleviate a lot of this pressure. It's insane. They have seen all these blockers, and then, of course, the 8 cost kid's really good against us if they can drop it down earlier, I would say. But let's go ahead and counter out. Just stay healthy. They have 9 Dawn remaining. Kid, and then blocker, blocker, blocker. So just a repeat of what we just did. Maybe we can draw something that KOs. I'm not sure. Beautiful. We get the Rayleigh to be able to KO the kid because now kid is at a 6 cost or 6,000 power, and we can just KO it and then start swinging in. We were able to draw magnificently. This is why going second really is good for us. And as you can see, opponent says unfair. It is what it is. Sometimes you just draw better. Ooh, Enel. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that Enel is like a really tough matchup for Shanks. And I could see that. However, I think that just me playing Enel for so long, I kind of know how to navigate this matchup safely, I'd say. And especially if you have a bunch of huge bodies, I really, really think that's really good for me. Now, this is a mistake on their part, just playing the Bonney down first, because I have a Red Hawk. I can just get rid of the Bonney, and I'm going to do that. Absolutely. I don't want them getting value over the course of the game. They should have swung first and then played the Bonney, but sometimes people don't realize that you're running Red Hawk. That's why Red Hawk's so good. So, yeah, we will stay alive. I usually will just take hits against Enel. I don't really care too much. Of course, when they give me free leader ability, of course, I'm going to use it. And if I can get rid of a body on the field, I think that's pretty good as well. I'm going to play down another Sanji because I'm just wanting to threaten them. I was going to use my leader ability, or not the leader ability, the Sanji ability just to draw. But honestly, they're going to be swinging into me anyway, so I don't think I need to draw because they'll be swinging into me. As you've seen so far, they've been very aggressive with what they do. Sometimes Enels will just not swing at all. And I think that's how you are supposed to play it. You kind of just like starve the Shanks out, don't give them life. And I think it's fine to also be aggressive. There's different ways to play it, of course. Everybody plays a little bit differently. So they play the Nami. I'm using the Sanji as bait, by the way, so that's fine. I think we can play the Rayleigh down. We can -3 to the Gadatsu, -2 to the Nami. Probably KO the Nami and then swing into Gadatsu, which is a really clean swing for us. They're only at 3 cards in hand, which is great for us because Enel having a low hand size is really, really unheard of for the most part. But also on top of that, it's kind of easier for us to be able to start closing the game out once we start putting a few bodies on the board. Of course, they have Katakuri to be able to answer the Rayleigh. We don't mind that as much. It does suck, but I think it is what it is. And this next turn, we're just going to drop down the 10 cost Shanks and see if they want to be a psycho and Rygo it. One of the reasons why I haven't swung at all is because if you do swing against Enel as Shanks and you get them down to 2 life, they can easily just Rygo it and they don't mind. Like I would say a former Enel player, I haven't played Enel in quite some time, but as an Enel player, I feel like it's fine. You know, I feel like it's fine to just be like, okay, cool. I don't mind losing a life if it means getting rid of a body off of the board that's going to be really a problematic body. So Rayleigh's good here, but I just messed up, I think, because KOing the Shirahoshi means that they are going to be able to use Yamato if they have it against the Shanks. So as much as I've played this matchup, I messed up. And that beige is really clutch here, because if they have a Yamato to KO the Shanks, it's really sad. I'm going to be really sad. And I imagine that Enel probably has it. I probably shouldn't have just KO'd it. Yeah. Oh, that's so painful. Look at their board. Okay, look at their board, look at my board, and then tell me that we're okay, please. Yeah, that was a play mistake on my part. I say that I know how to play against Enel, but then I wasn't even counting the life. Yikes. Well, at least we get a Roger off of life to be able to swing into something here. Now, what do I want to swing into? Good question. Probably the Katakuri, but maybe also test them to see the ace. I think with 3 cards in hand, it's a little bit hard for them to counter out of that. So yeah, this Roger, not the best card to draw in the middle of a match, but honestly not the worst one either. So I think this Roger might be able to be a little bit of a saving grace. They're not going to want to Rygo it, but maybe it's tempting enough for them to do so. We have to counter out of this stuff because we're at 3 life here. We have to be able to counter out and stay very healthy. This turn, we might go down to 1 life. No, we got a 1k off of that. If they swing with this Katakuri, we are definitely countering out here. This turn, I think we just swing into Yamato. I think we also swing maybe Dragon. We could go Dragon. Oh, Rayleigh also might be a good play as well. Can't KO anything though. We'll swing and just get a card out of hand. And if they counter out with a 1k, I think it might be safe to go ahead and just stack the rest on Marco and then swing 8 into 5. Either getting both cards out of hand or getting rid of this Katakuri. So then they only have 2 bodies, although we aren't able to play the Red Hawk, of course. There's always a chance that if we left 2 up to use the Red Hawk against Katakuri, that they'd put a Dawn underneath it so that we couldn't use our leader ability and then Katakuri, or Red Hawk the Katakuri. So I feel like it's better to just guarantee that it's pretty much gone at that point. And they're using Ace again to heal up. We have to be careful about our life totals, of course, and free leader ability here. And if they swing the Yamato, which I hope they do, then we will gladly swing back into it. I don't know if that's the right play, to be quite honest. I don't know if swinging Yamato there is smart. Yeah. We can follow up, though. We should be able to follow up pretty easily. We can play Rayleigh to draw a little bit further in. I think I want to keep both of my big bodies if I can. Well, at least one of the big bodies, possibly. So let's swing into the Yamato. This guarantees that it's gone. And the reason why I played Rayleigh first is because I wanted to get the draw off. And because I played Rayleigh first, I don't want to swing into life and have the Rayleigh potentially get KO'd. That's why I don't swing right there, because if it gets KO'd off of a trigger, I feel like that might spell GG overall. So yeah, this turn looks like they've finally ran out of big bodies. They're gonna just swing a big 11, and I mean we could just block that one pretty easily. Use the leader ability on the ace. They decide not to swing. Very interesting. This turn, we have a couple different plays here. I feel like just swinging 5 first before we do anything else is important. We might want to start pushing lethal here shortly, get them down to maybe like 2 life. We're in a very sticky spot here where it can go either way. It can go either way depending on what they do. And hopefully they don't have any triggers come out that are like bodies. Usually Enel doesn't play any like body triggers, at least not so much anymore. As you can see, they are playing Kikunojo, but hopefully we don't get one of those coming out. And then we'll throw down, we'll swing down with the Roger, get them down to 2. We are putting in some work here. I don't mind actually healing them here, to be honest, get them up to 3, because I don't want that Kikunojo on the field regardless. And it makes it a little bit harder for them to Raigo if they decide to Raigo. And if they decide to swing just 8 with the ace, then we can easily use the Red Hawk just to protect ourselves. So we have to play, like I said, very carefully, of course. This is normally the matchup. If you are able to draw multiple 10 drops, it's pretty easy, but we've only drawn 2 over the course of the game, one of them being Roger, which I gotta be honest, Roger's not like the best 10 drop to be able to draw in this matchup. So I think it's safe to go ahead and just like maybe use our 0 cost event and the dragon, because I don't feel like we need the dragon quite yet. I feel like we could probably get a better top end piece and stall one more turn for like a lucky room. Is this another ace? Oh my god, this is insane how many aces they've seen. Cool. Well, we get a Roger at least, so that's nice. Is it better to just swing the Roger first to guarantee that we get cards out of hand? I think it is, right? Maybe they'll counter out. I don't know. Depends on what they do here. If they counter out of this one, then we swing into the ace. If they don't counter out of this one, I think we continue to pressure face. It's either ace or the face. I'm not sure which is the place. We'll go 6 and a 5. This one's an easy counter for them. If I were them, I would counter out of this one. Because, well, maybe they're psycho. I don't know. If I were playing as this Enel, I would have countered out of the Marco, because that guarantees that I can't at least like finish the game here or potentially go for game. Because if they take this and they take the next 8 and then they take the Roger and then I have another rush unit, that puts them at a very sticky spot. So, okay, they're going to counter out of this one at least. I feel like just countering with like a 2k there would have been better. And then I think what we can do here is, because they have shown that they're not going to be able to, like, we're not going to be able to close the game, I think we just swing 17 here and then we play the Lucky Roo down as just a general blocker and then have the Red Hawk and 2/2Ks up, and then we'll use the Goldie Roger this next turn. I think this is probably the last turn of the game for them, unless of course they get some crazy triggers, because what I'm going to end up doing is probably trying to counter out of one of these attacks and then take the other one. and then have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, sorry. Let me count again. 2, 4, 6, 7. 7 attacks this next turn, and they're at 2 life. We'll go 5, 5, 6, 8, 8, 13, 13. So this is not another rush unit, so that's really good for us to see there. We will use our Red Hawk in a 2K. Like I said, we want to try to guarantee that this Lucky Roo stays alive so it can be a swinger for this next turn. Kids, don't ask what that is. So then we will have them swing big 14. They're probably... Oh, I have to block this one. I need the Rayleigh to stay alive here. Okay, so we have 2 2Ks, a Roger, and a Dream here. So we're going to go 5. Easy counter for them. If they have it, of course, which... I mean, they've played all of their big bodies. They probably have just nothing but counter at this point. So another easy counter for them. I'm going to go ahead and just guarantee that this ace just goes. I want to make sure that this ace is not on the field so that it's harder for them to at least go for lethal this next turn. We'll go 8. We'll go 8 again, and then maybe push them down to 0 so that their only play, if they're at 0, can either be a Yamato or 10 cost ace. So the fact that we have been at 1 life for at least maybe I don't know, 5, 6 turns and have been able to finally stabilize it is insane. This has been a crazy match, at least. The fact that they had drawn, I think 3 or 4, maybe all 4 aces. I'm not entirely sure. Pretty crazy to me. Okay, so this turn they're swinging 6. I'm just going to counter out because, well, if for whatever reason they have 0 cost event into 0 cost event into 0 cost event, it's going to be troublesome for me. So let's just make sure that this doesn't happen. Let's swing 9s, which are going to be really hard for them to counter out of. So we'll go 9. We'll go 9 with Rayleigh. And then we'll go another 9 with Rayleigh. And then we can probably go 10 with leader, 13, 13. We don't even have to do that because they took that last 9. And then we just put the rest on Roger, because he's been a trooper and been here since day 1. So 19 to 5, there's no way they counter out of this, or at least if they do, I don't know the math off the top of my head, but even if they have all the 2Ks in the world, pretty impossible there. Lilith is a very interesting card in their deck list. I can see why they're running it. They don't get the trigger off of it, but they are able to search eggheads, so interesting tech overall. But yeah, man, they had 4, I think they saw all 4 aces. Pretty insane there. Well, there you have it, folks. This is Shanks. At least a version of Shanks. I will probably switch this around 10 more times before I land on something I am extremely happy with, but I think for the most part, there's a good shell that we can build the rest of the deck off of. I think that the real breadwinner here for me is the 10 cost KO Shanks. I really enjoy this card. I also really like Roger at 2. Of course, 10 cost Rush Shanks at 4 is a must. I want to play more with having 4 Uta and maybe Yasop eventually. I'm not quite sure. There's a control style build you can go that route with. I think Building Snake might be something I want to add in as well. It's just how many bricks can this deck run? I'm going to be building multiple houses if that's the case. But either way, hopefully you guys really enjoy playing Shanks as much as I do. Like I said, there's multiple ways to at least build it, and then from there, build it towards how you would like to play it. I know some people are building it more of a rush-oriented style. There's a control-oriented style, and then there's kind of a mid-range, or at least just drop big bodies. So I don't know. There's many different ways to play it. It's a fun leader. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I do. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys as always, and I'll see you in the next video.